Hi, Candy here. This is the third video discussing the three levels of consciousness based on evolutionary astrology, also based on my own personal experience, something that I've tried and tested and proven, and something that I would like to share with you so that you could gauge at which level of consciousness you are at, okay? Take in consideration your age, take in consideration your experiences in life. All of those things help open you up to different levels of consciousness. This third stage is represented by 5 to 10% of the people. It's the spirituated stage, okay? It is ruled by the planet Neptune, which is also the ruler of Pisces. It's a transcendent stage. It's the stage that, recapping, is beyond the herd group, which is 70% of the population. It is beyond the individuated group, which is 20% of the population. The herd group is monkey see, monkey do. The individuated stage is more like, aha, I have all the answers. Psych, no, I don't. And you are evolving into yourself, but you're still learning. You're still going back and forth between the herd state and the individuated state. Your soul is still separating and returning to source, and is still trying to find its way in the world, but it is definitely awakened in the individuated state. When the spirituated state, you can kind of see the interrelatedness in all of the consciousnesses that you come in contact with. You're very aware of yourself and others, and you're able to understand the concept of the soul in a much deeper way. Hence my book, 25 Thoughts About Your Soul, where I break down what the soul is, how to connect with the soul, how to use the soul as the bridge to bring your mind, body, and spirit together. Soul alignment, basically. The soul becomes a conscious reality during the individuated state, and the essence of the spirituated state is the ability to understand timeless and universal natural laws. This is like nirvana, literally. It is like discovering the heaven within. When it says, don't go looking there, don't go looking over there. When they say that the Son of God is here, the Son of God is there, don't go, because the kingdom of heaven is within, right? It's not in some other location, right? The moment you start looking at yourself as separate from God is when you begin to lose your superpowers, okay? So you have to, at this point, you're already like, I and the Father are one. You're able to see the interconnectedness of all things, right? You're able to kind of like piss people off and not even know you're pissing them off. In the individuated state, you're pissing people off. You kind of know you're pissing people off, and you kind of like it, right? Because it makes you feel special. You're still kind of stuck in the ego. In the spirituated state, you're kind of transcending that. And it's not like you're trying to piss people off or anything like that, but it's more like you really don't, your level of importance has changed. It's gotten to a point where you're not even seeing them anymore like that. Like you're focused on something so much bigger. Um, you can still be working with fears and insecurities, but you're okay going through that. You're able to identify yourself as independent of others, or interdependent, so to speak. You may still be dealing with some self-judgment and leftover residual effects of religion, because sometimes people make you feel a little bit guilty about breaking away from religion, but because religion has nothing to do with consciousness and you're expanding your consciousness at this point, you really can't, it's almost like a snake shedding its skin. It's not like you don't revere it, like, great, it's wonderful, but I'm graduating, right? And when you are graduating, you can't force yourself to stay back. I mean, a lot of times, what if you did all of your work in the second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and you got ready to graduate to go to junior high school or ninth grade high school, and they said, you got to go back and do the second grade all over again. You'll be like, I don't want to do the second grade all over again. I've already passed that, right? And then everybody starts making you feel bad because you don't want to do the second grade again, right? We always encourage people to break out, to move forward, to graduate. But when you start graduating on a spiritual level, when you start expanding your consciousness, people start saying, you're a reprobate, or you're leaving, you're forsaking the assembly of God, and you're blaspheming when you say I and the Father are one, and these works I do, so shall you do also. And once you start seeing yourself as connected and as one with the Creator, it's like people really start getting jealous, mad, suspicious. It brings out all the claws in people. So you may still be dealing with a little bit of that, but as you become more grounded, planetary energies start to really, really work here in pulling you further and further out. Because one thing about it, once you start evolving, you can't go back. Right? You can't go back. Even if you are having to be a herd, and go back to the herd state or the consensus state, and you're sitting somewhere and you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to really say anything. I'm just going to just act like everybody else. You're not ever going to be like anybody else. And then when you leave the party, somebody's gonna say, who was that person that was sitting over there, or who was that so and so? People are gonna notice you everywhere you go, even if you try to blend in, because consciousness is so loud. People can see it in your eyes, they can see it in your skin. There's a glow. It's a presence. It's something that you can't get rid of. It kind of follows you everywhere you go. The second stage is where the soul and ego learn how to align. So at this point, your ego is still present, but your ego is now kind of getting more in alignment with your soul, which we call soul alignment, right? And it's moving from the personality more deeper into the soul. Okay, so the ego is not necessarily identifying with the personality as much as it is with the soul, which is actually what you want, right? Because the soul, even though it has some emotion and human aspect to it, it's the bridge between the person and the spirit, right? And so you want to identify with that more, okay? And when you identify with that, you are able to move freer through situations, right? You're able to rise above situations. This is where you become less dense, okay? Now with the third stage, you are exhausting your desires to separate from the Creator, meaning that you have purified your soul to a point where now you don't even desire to separate. You don't even desire to fit in. You don't even desire to please the masses. And you're not contrary. You're not trying to prove anything. You don't explain yourself anymore. This third stage is all about being. This third stage is all about the I am. It's all about making sure that you actually are in alignment most of the time, because now you can feel when you're out of alignment. You've played with this thing, you've experimented with it, you've tested it, you've proven it, you've manifested so much in your life at this point that is so much past the house, it's past the car, it's past the lover, it's past do they like me, do they accept me, it's past your childhood, it surpasses everything. It surpasses your tendencies, your preferences. You're still you, but you are deconditioned, and you are now in alignment with your soul's desire and what it came here to do, and you're ready. Now, in that first stage, you still may, I feel like, well, I still have a little bit more preparation to do. In the second stage, you feel a little bit more ready. In your third stage, this is where your Buddhas and your Gandhis and your Jesuses and, this is where those people are. And so when you get to that place, you're releasing those separate desires. Now, when you get to this place and you don't quite release those soul desires to separate, and when I say separate, I said earlier in the first video, we have a desire. And our desire sometimes, okay, let's say you have, you're a growing child. When you're growing, you have this natural desire to separate from your parents so that you can become who you are. And you get out there and you learn, and then you appreciate your parents more, and you come back, right? And then you get kind of used to them, and you have a desire to learn something else, so you separate. You get out there and you get smacked on the hand a few times, you learn a few lessons, and you're like, oh my God, I really miss my parents or whoever was the nurturer in your life. Well, we do this with Source, we do this with God, we do this with the Creator. We want to separate and return, and separate and return, and separate and return. There's nothing wrong with that. When you separate, you learn. When you return, you appreciate. When you separate, you learn. When you return, you appreciate. So what happens is in this third state of spiritual evolution, you have exhausted the desire to separate. Okay? If you have not exhausted the desire to separate, your soul can split and go off and kind of do its own thing. This is where the concept of twin flames come, where they say the soul can split. These are concepts. You do not have to believe them. If you're in the individuated state, or if you're in the spirituated state, you are open to these ideas, and you make these conceptual connections, metaphysical connections. You apply them to how they fit to you. You plug them in, and you light up with some knowledge that you never had before. And what happens is you see what you never expected to see, which it may not even have anything to do with that particular piece of knowledge, but that piece of knowledge had you go looking for something that you needed to find. This is the beauty of opening up, releasing your belief systems, and seeing what sticks to you and what does not. So, when you're talking about a soulmate, this is someone who actually loves you in spite of yourself, and they are always there, right? And when you're talking about a karma mate, um, they help you with unfinished business, things that you kind of have left off, or that, I love you, I will love you if. It's more of a conditional type thing. With the soulmate, it's about evolving the soul. And then with your same soul, which is where the soul kind of splits off to go do its work, and then sometimes they find each other later, um, um, meaning that it attracts itself, like attracts like. Like when you see someone, you be like, oh my goodness, this is my twin flame, this is my long lost soul, right? My same soul. And you mirror each other, right? This is a conceptual explanation of that, okay? So, um, think about those things, where you are, think about your relationships. I'm trying to make sure I didn't leave anything out, because this is in conclusion of those three states of consciousness. Um, let's see. I think that's it. Um, examine where you are. Number one, examine where you are. Tell yourself, I am open to everything that is designed for me. Also, write down insights about yourself as they come to you. This is called like knowing thyself, and eventually you fall in love with yourself. This is how you fall in love with yourself. This is not, when you really fall in love with yourself, it's not from a narcissistic standpoint. Narcissism is all about fear. But when you learn yourself, like I'm trying to tell you to do, you start loving yourself so much that these relationships out here don't mean anything to you. You'll find yourself walking away from people and you're like, oh, you don't love me like I love myself. It's weird. And it's not from a selfish standpoint. It's not like you're asking them to take care of you. You're not asking them to do anything special. It's a feeling. It's a spirit of love, absent of fear, with a high value and appreciation for who you are on a deeper, deeper, deeper level. It fills you up. It gives you butterflies about yourself within yourself. Imagine creating your own butterflies, right? So think about getting to know yourself more and loving yourself more, letting go of the things that constrict you and opening up to the realm of possibilities of who you are, which are endless. Reinvent yourself. You know what I'm saying? Risk losing friends. If you lost friends, who cares? You just have to keep growing and moving and doing and being, right? If people lie on you, think about it. They try to ruin your reputation. They try to block your destiny. It doesn't even matter when you get to these individuated states and spirituated states. So reconstruct the world by reconstructing your mind. I know you can do it. Thanks for listening. Bye.